You are not late. You were measured by the wrong clock. For years you believed you were falling behind in school, behind in career, behind in life. You watched others move in straight lines while your path curved, looped, disappeared, then exploded forward without warning. They called it inconsistency. You called it failure. But the truth is darker and far more powerful. Your brain does not process time like theirs. It does not march. It surges. It compresses. It vanishes. And because nobody explained that to you, you built an identity around delay. There is a memory that still burns, a classroom, late afternoon light stretching across desks, a deadline written on the board in thick black marker, everyone writing steadily, you staring at the page, thoughts racing somewhere else entirely, ideas colliding, futures forming, stories unfolding inside your skull. You blinked. The bell rang. You had barely begun. You walked home carrying more than a backpack. You carried shame. That was the day you started believing you were late. Late to start. Late to finish. Late to become. But here is what nobody saw. Your mind was not idle. It was alive, overactive, non-linear, building connections beneath the surface, like roots growing in unpredictable directions. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You were built different. Different minds bloom differently. Time feels strange to you because your perception is tied to meaning, not minutes. When something grips your nervous system, hours evaporate. When something feels empty, 5 minutes can feel like suffocation. This is not immaturity. It is intensity-driven cognition. There was a night when you lost yourself inside a project. The world outside your room faded. Streetlights flickered on unnoticed. Your phone died, and you did not care. You were building something, shaping something, understanding something. When you finally looked up, it was 3:12 a.m. Exhausted, alive, confused. You wondered why you could not summon that power for everything. Because your brain does not run on obligation. It runs on ignition, and ignition cannot be forced with shame. The world runs on linear clocks, school schedules, corporate timelines, milestones tied to age. By 25 you should have this. By 30 you should have that. If you do not, whispers begin. Late. But storms do not follow calendars. They gather invisibly before they strike. There was a lonely walk you took once, long after sunset. City quiet, shoes scraping pavement. You felt behind compared to friends who seemed established, stable, predictable. You felt like a cracked crown sitting on a throne no one respected. That night you almost surrendered to the narrative that you had missed your moment, but something in you refused. A small internal voice said this: "What if your timeline is different?" That question changed everything. You process time emotionally. That means your growth comes in leaps, not increments. Long seasons of confusion followed by sudden clarity. Years of feeling lost followed by months of acceleration that make outsiders uncomfortable. They do not understand nonlinear growth, but you live it. Underestimation cut deep. Teachers saw potential but complained about inconsistency. Employers praised creativity but questioned reliability. Friends joked about your lateness. Every comment chipped away at your self-trust. You began to doubt your own rhythm. That doubt is more dangerous than delay. Because once you distrust your timing, you hesitate to begin. You overthink. You stall. You spiral. And spirals distort time further. There was a moment when you missed something important. A meeting. An opportunity. The realization hit like a blade. You sat in a dark room, replaying it, telling yourself this is why you will never succeed. The room felt smaller. The future felt distant. That was your psychological breaking point. But breaking points are also entry points. You started studying yourself instead of condemning yourself. You noticed patterns. You noticed that when stakes were real, you executed with terrifying efficiency. When something mattered deeply, you moved like a machine. When something felt meaningless, your mind drifted. This was not laziness. This was selective intensity. Strategy 1. Redefine lateness. You are not late. You are early in a non-linear cycle. Stop comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 10. Comparison compresses your perception of time and magnifies anxiety. Anxiety clouds judgment. Clarity returns when comparison ends. Strategy 2. Create artificial ignition. If your brain requires emotional charge to act, build it. Public commitments, timed challenges, visible countdowns, attached stakes. Your nervous system wakes up when there is consequence. Strategy 3. Measure impact, not pace. Linear thinkers measure consistency. You must measure depth. 1 week of focused creation from you can outproduce months of average effort. Respect your burst capacity. Protect it. Structure it. There was a childhood afternoon when you built something from nothing. Maybe it was art. Maybe it was imagination. Hours vanished, yet you were fully present. That state is not lost. It is untrained. Your brain processes time differently. That is not a weakness. It is raw potential without containment. And once you learn to contain it, once you stop apologizing for your rhythm and start engineering around it, the narrative shifts. You were never late. You were loading. Loading does not look impressive from the outside. From the outside it looks like delay. It looks like hesitation. It looks like another unfinished project sitting in a corner collecting dust. But inside you something is assembling. Patterns connecting. Ideas fusing. Pressure building beneath the surface. The world mistakes incubation for incompetence. You lived inside that misunderstanding for years. There was a season when everyone around you seemed to accelerate at once. Promotions, relationships, certifications, announcements online with smiling faces and polished milestones. You scrolled through them at night, blue light reflecting in tired eyes, feeling like you had missed a train that would never circle back. Late again. That word echoed like a verdict. But what nobody sees about nonlinear minds is the compression phase. You absorb, you observe, you overthink. You analyze conversations long after they end. You replay failures until they carve lessons into your bones. It feels slow. It feels stagnant. It feels like standing still while others run. Yet beneath that stillness, your mind is forging steel. There was a memory from early adulthood. You tried to follow a strict routine copied from someone successful. Wake at 5, cold shower, timed blocks, identical daily schedule. For 10 days you felt disciplined, controlled. Then one small disruption shattered the rhythm. You missed a block, then another. Soon the entire structure collapsed. You felt weak, embarrassed, as if you had proven you could not sustain progress. That was not weakness. That was misalignment. You tried to wear armor built for a different warrior. Your brain processes time through intensity and meaning. That means your productivity spikes when purpose is clear and drops when purpose is foggy. Linear systems ignore this. They assume steady output independent of emotion. You are not built for emotional neutrality. You feel deeply. You react strongly. You imagine vividly. Your racing thoughts are not random noise. They are simulations running at high speed, scanning possibilities, detecting patterns others miss. But high-speed processing without direction feels like chaos, so you must become deliberate. Second transformation, structure the surge. Instead of expecting consistent low-level output, design your life around controlled bursts. Choose 3 priority missions per week, not 10, not 15, 3. When you enter a surge state, aim it at those missions only. Everything else waits. This is containment. There was a silent night when you sat at a desk, staring at a blank page. For weeks you had avoided starting. Fear of imperfection froze you. Then something shifted. You told yourself you would write badly for 15 minutes only. The timer started. Words poured out. Not perfect, not polished, but alive. By the time the timer ended, you were deep inside flow. The hardest part was beginning. That is the paradox. Your mind resists ignition, but thrives once burning. so lower the barrier to entry. Third transformation, shorten the distance between thought and action. You overthink because you care. You imagine outcomes vividly. You calculate risks emotionally. But thinking without acting distorts time further. Days pass in mental rehearsal. The solution is micro-execution. One email sent, one paragraph written, one call made. Action clarifies more than rumination ever will. Each small action collapses the illusion of lateness. Because progress becomes visible, you must also confront the betrayal narrative. Somewhere inside you is anger. At teachers who misunderstood. At managers who labeled you inconsistent. At yourself for missed chances. That anger is heavy, but it is also fuel. Use it, not to destroy yourself, to sharpen yourself. There was a moment when someone underestimated you openly. A comment about your reliability, a subtle doubt about your capability. It burned. For days you replayed it, then you channeled it into focus. You completed a project with ruthless precision. You delivered beyond expectation. The look on their face was quiet validation. You do not need applause, you need proof to yourself. Proof rebuilds identity. Identity reshapes behavior. Behavior changes outcomes, and outcomes rewrite timelines. You were never behind. You were moving through a different developmental arc. Long stretches of confusion followed by violent clarity. Others may advance in straight lines, but you leap when alignment strikes. Alignment is the key word. If you pursue goals disconnected from your values, your time perception fractures, minutes drag, motivation evaporates. But when you align with something that resonates, your system activates. So ask yourself, what actually matters? Not what impresses, not what satisfies comparison, what ignites. There was that childhood afternoon when you lost track of hours building something imaginary. Nobody forced you, nobody monitored you. You were immersed. That state was pure alignment. Recreate that feeling strategically. Choose work that challenges and stimulates. Break it into sprints. Protect your energy. Accept that recovery is part of performance, not evidence of delay. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You were built different. And different timelines produce different legends. But the final shift requires one more decision. You must stop asking for permission to move at your pace. Permission is a cage disguised as approval. For years you waited for someone to confirm that your rhythm was acceptable. A teacher saying you are on track. A boss saying you are progressing fast enough. A friend saying you are not behind. You waited for external clocks to bless your timing. They never did, because their clocks were never calibrated for your wiring. There was a morning when you opened your phone and felt the old pressure rising again. Age milestones, career milestones, announcements that seemed to declare everyone else had figured it out. For a split second, your chest tightened. The familiar thought returned, you are late. Then something different happened. Instead of collapsing inward, you observed the thought like a cloud passing through a storm sky. You asked yourself a sharper question. Late compared to what standard? Whose measurement? Whose expectation? The pressure loosened. This is the final transformation. You reclaim authorship of your timeline. You stop chasing arbitrary deadlines that never aligned with your nature. You stop measuring your worth by speed alone. You measure by depth, by resilience, by the ability to fall, recalibrate, and rise with sharper edges each time. There was a season when everything felt stalled, projects unfinished, savings thin, direction unclear. You felt like a king without a kingdom, sitting in a silent room staring at cracked walls. It seemed like stagnation, but beneath that stillness, you were absorbing lessons. You were learning where your energy drained. You were recognizing which environments suffocated you. You were noticing that your productivity soared only when autonomy existed. Those realizations were not delays, they were strategic intelligence. Your brain processes time differently because it prioritizes significance over sequence. That means you may appear slow at first. You hesitate until meaning is clear. You analyze. You test internally. Then once conviction locks in, You move with frightening speed. Others sprint early and burn out. You ignite late and sustain. That is power when directed. The world glorifies early bloomers. It rarely speaks about those who gather force quietly before rising. But history is full of non-linear ascensions, long obscurity, sudden emergence, the storm that nobody predicted because it was forming beyond sight. You are not late. You are gathering. There was a recent night walk, wind strong, streetlights reflecting off wet pavement. You felt different, not anxious, not comparing, just aware. You had completed your core mission that day. You had honored your sprint. You had protected your focus. The quiet satisfaction in your chest was unfamiliar but solid. You were not chasing anyone. You were building. This is sovereignty over time. You design your environment to match your cognition. You set fewer but more meaningful targets. You use visible timers to make minutes tangible. You create friction around distractions. You attach stakes to important commitments. You rest without guilt because recovery fuels future surges. And when you stumble, because you will, you reset immediately. No dramatic self-condemnation, no week-long spiral. One small action to re-establish momentum. That speed of recovery is the difference between delay and devastation. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You were built different. Different does not mean inferior. It means specialized. Your racing thoughts are reconnaissance. Your emotional intensity is a radar system. Your hyper-focus is a weapon. Your nonlinear growth is a slingshot. The longer it pulls back, the farther you launch. Stop calling that lateness. Call it preparation. There was a flash of memory from childhood. Standing alone after school, watching others leave quickly with clear plans. You felt uncertain, slower, but you also noticed details they ignored. The pattern of cracks in the pavement, the shift in sky color before rain. You sensed storms before they arrived. That sensitivity is still yours. Now combine it with discipline. Discipline is not forcing yourself into someone else's mold. Discipline is protecting your unique operating system from chaos. It is designing systems that respect your surges. It is guarding your energy, like a throne room guarded by steel doors. When you do this consistently, something mythic occurs. The narrative flips. You no longer say, "I am behind." You say, "I am building on my own axis," and that axis becomes unshakable. Let others move in straight lines. You will move in arcs of force. You will disappear into preparation and re-emerge with clarity. You will be underestimated until you are undeniable. Your brain processes time differently. That difference is not your downfall. It is your advantage once mastered. Stand tall inside your nonlinear mind. Own your pace. Build relentlessly.